Hello, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining in today. We've got a great subject to chat about the mindset of abundance. There's a lot of different books out there that speak to this, and we've got a great guest today to further enforce the idea behind just having that mindset in all that you do. We might even reference a couple of these books, but I do want to introduce Dr. Hall. He's a multi-time author, business psychologist, and public speaker. We've got a couple of his books identified here, and we'll show you how to get those later on in the episode. But other than that, how you doing today, Dr. Hall?
I'm doing well. I'm grateful to be here. Thanks for having me again, Jared. It's always great to work with you.
Yeah, same. As we start this, what I was thinking about was our prior conversation. I'm trying to remember the topic. It'll come to me in a minute, exact topic, but it was basically, it was about resonant leadership and not having to contend with your thoughts and emotions in difficult times with your clients. So that resonant leader being able to do that. It occurred to me that it's probably the commission breath that I referenced that would tend to get you to a point where you're not having that abundant mindset and then distracting you from where you're at.
Yeah. So, yes, I think that is what kicked us off on this last time.
Gotcha. So, what we want to cover today, and actually, you know what, before we get into this, let me just real quickly talk about our sponsor briefly here. I don't want to forget this because this incorporates a lot of what we're talking about in regards to how we develop the perfect real estate business, reinventing the real estate business, partnering with Dr. Hall in the business coaching, life coaching aspect, and then introducing a lot of other tools, techniques, some that have come online over the years and others that are just coming online. So if you want to chat with this, we'd love to chat with you about that. But sorry about that. I always want to speak about our sponsor, but I do want to get into the idea of how that mindset versus scarcity would behoove us as agents.
Well, maybe we should start by defining it. And a scarcity mindset is a mindset that says, if you win, I necessarily lose. Another way to describe it is a zero-sum game. So it's a game where the sum of everything will always be zero. If you get positive, I get negative. So the sum of the positive and the negative always ends up in zero. That's where we get this term zero-sum game. And so a scarcity mindset says there's a limited amount of money in the world. There's a limited amount of success in the world. There's a limited amount of love in the world, or friendship in the world, or success in the world. Whatever the idea is, whatever the thing is that people want, there's this idea that in the world there is a limited supply. So if you get more, I'll get less. And there are whole economic systems based on a scarcity mindset, which is that if you get more, I get less, which creates incredible competition. The abundance mindset says that if you and I work together, we can create more than existed in the past. And so that it isn't a zero-sum game. I can win and you can win, and we can create more than ever existed before. And if we, I don't know if I've ever shared this story with you. I can't remember if it was you or someone else, but someone that I grew up with, she was a girl at the time, she's a woman now, named Sherry Heldwidge. Did I ever tell you this story?
Doesn't ring a bell.
So Sherry and I have known each other since the third grade, and in adulthood we still are friends. So she married decades ago, but I still call her by her childhood name because that's kind of how she stuck in my head. Her name is Sherry Clay. And so Sherry and I were at our class reunion, and she said, Isn't it amazing, Roger, how everything is made out of dirt?
Mm.
And at first I thought that was not smart, but the more I thought about it, like it took me about 30 seconds to compute.
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized that everything comes from actually three things. One, dirt, or the product of our world. So minerals from the ground, chemicals that people have transformed, biological, things in biology that we use to eat or make things with that came from the ground, okay, from dirt. And so you combine the things that are on the earth with effort and creativity. So people have to think up an idea, they have to become creative, and then they have to put work into it. But those are the three things that make everything. And if it really is a zero-sum game, then we'd still be bashing rocks together. Okay? We would be clubbing each other with rocks. I guess with clubs. You club each other with clubs, you stone each other with rocks. But if it wasn't for creativity and effort, nothing more would exist. So, here's a battery, okay? This battery is made up of metal, the ground, and chemicals. It's alkaline, so that came from the ground. And there's some plastic here in the bottom. And so we get energy because somebody figured out how to make this and then put the effort into it. And then they had to figure out all the machines. So if you can invent a battery out of dirt, an idea, and effort, then you can make anything. And it's this insight, I think, that gets us to an abundance mindset. That if it really was that if I get more, you get less, we wouldn't have ever advanced. We wouldn't have creativity and generated, everything that we see in our world today. I mean, this wall, the paint that's on this wall, these picture frames, these photos, cameras that take photos like that. All of this came from an idea, effort, and dirt. So as we look at working with other people, we have this idea that if another person in my area of business succeeds, if they do well, then necessarily I will do worse. So in real estate, what people are saying right now is, yeah, but see, he doesn't understand real estate because there's a limited number of homes. And so if this person gets that sale, then I won't get it. And it's like, yeah, but there's an issue here. In the short run, you may be right. So in the short run, a scarcity mindset works great. But for a career, it works really badly.
Gotcha. A sprint versus a marathon.
Sprint versus marathon. If all I need to do is make money for the weekend, a scarcity mindset will work really well. But if I want to be successful for the long term, I have to have an abundance mindset. And here's how it works in your business in real estate. Yes, there is a limited number of houses, but there are a couple things I know about human beings is they like to make things. They come up with ideas and they use their effort and stuff that came out of the ground to create what? New homes. And here's what I know about people. They like to have children, or at least they like to do the things that produce children. So we're going to keep having kids. When the United States started, there weren't more than a few million people here. Now, there's 330, depending on who you ask, 330 to 340 million people living here. The population is a lot more dense because people keep having kids. Well, if that happens, then what happens? People need to get more houses. So we will continue to build and grow to adapt to the desires of people. So in the short term, if you're only thinking about this week, this month, or maybe this year, a scarcity mindset, if you win, I lose, that's fine. But if you want to have a career, you have to believe in an abundance mindset, that if I help you now on this deal, then you will help me later, or someone else will help me later. And we will all succeed together.
So I might be regressing a little bit here, and if I am too far, let me know. But one of the things that I always found frustrating is people talking about your thinking and the importance of your thinking, in large part the thinking of abundance. You know, the Tony Robbins, all the books that I just mentioned. But what they don't talk about is how you do that exactly in execution, and what that means to your biology. I know we've had a podcast on this before, but. And if I butcher it, I apologize. I'll let you state it, but I'm doing it more to make sure that I'm understanding it accurately. But really, it's rewiring the physical nature of our brain with different thoughts. There's literally a behavioral process that introduces biological rerouting of our thoughts in our brain. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty rough approximation. In other words, our brains are designed to grow like a plant, and every day our brain is growing and changing and repairing, and it's housed in this contained space in the skull, so it can't grow out forever. So because of the limited space, things that aren't being used are being pruned off, and things that you need more space for, you grow new neurons. Now, this happens at a microscopic level. You know, you don't like grow a new lobe.
Right.
But at a microscopic level, your brain is always growing and changing. So if I have a pattern of bad thinking, I can, through changing my pattern of thinking, rewire my brain. It'll change the biochemistry. It'll change the brain chemistry in those specific areas. And then on a really microscopic level, it'll create new neurons. The first thing it'll do is it'll create new, they're called dendrites, but they're like little branches. And you'll get more branches growing off to make the new connection. And eventually, when you need more than the old neuron would carry, that neuron will divide, and then you get even more connections. And so on a microscopic level, by changing my thinking, I'm actually growing neurons. I'm growing dendrites, I'm growing neurons, all of which is communicating information to think differently.
Yeah, and I bring that up because I want to make the case, or you've made the case, that an abundance mindset makes a lot more sense long term.
Yep.
We've got books, many books that speak to the importance of why you should do it, but no hard facts, as best I can tell, about what it means to play that out. You think, oh, that sounds great in theory, but now I'm discouraged because I can't just instantly have that change of thought, and it just doesn't infect the rest of my life or affect the rest of my life. So what I want to encourage the listeners are, take all of these smart people, including yourself, give them credit for their recommendations of doing this, begin down that path, knowing full well that it takes time for the exact process that you just described, before that really begins to become who you are and what you're about.
Right. So can I give you some practical tips?
Absolutely.
Okay, so since we used the battery before, we'll use it again. So one of the qualities of a scarcity mindset is envy. And I won't do it today, but I distinguish between envy and jealousy. Here's how I'm going to define envy. And there are other people who define it differently, but for purposes of our discussion, envy is desire. I want something, plus resentment that you have it. So if I have this battery and you, Jared, want this battery, you desire this battery,
Mm-hmm.
and there's only one, then what do you start thinking?
I gotta have it.
I got to have that. And then what do you start thinking about me?
Why do you
Because
have it?
I have it.
Yeah. What? Why do you have it, and what's it going to take to get it?
What's it going to take to get it? And then resentment comes in. Well, it must be nice that he has a battery. People like that have batteries all the time. And so one of the things I would focus people who want to stop having a scarcity mindset is monitor themselves, that when they have a desire and someone else has already achieved their desired state, rather than saying, must be nice, which to me is the hallmark of envy. Must be nice. To say and said to yourself, okay, I would like a battery. Doesn't have to be that battery, but I would like a battery. Or I would like to have what that battery offers me. How can I learn from this person in order to achieve that same thing? So if somebody has financial success, or if somebody has interpersonal success, whatever it is, rather than desire the same thing and resent the person for having it, learn from that other person, be inspired, admire that other person, and try to figure out, how did they figure it out? Ask them, how did you do that? I really admire that, and I'd like to be able to do the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You had commented earlier of some of evidence of some reasons why people get a scarcity mindset over an abundance mindset. You've talked about nurture and nature and all that before, but are there literally some like economic structures and built-in cultural habits that just continue to bring that scarcity mindset forward?
Yeah, you're going to get my worldview here, Jared. But the free market, and when I define the free market, I'm not talking about what some theorists call mercantilism, or more recently has been called crony capitalism. But really, the free market is absolutely dependent on an abundance mindset. And as soon as some other non-interested party gets in the mix, it starts to mess it up. And once that starts to get messed up, when you have people who are not part of the free market arrangement get involved in the free market, then it starts to change the balance, and all of that starts to create artificial scarcities.
Interesting.
So that's economics, which is probably not what people are signing up for. But if you look at, and this has to do with real estate, if you look at research on rent controls, the first order thinking is, we're going to, people can't afford where they live, so we're going to control those rents. So the government, a disinterested party or a do-gooder party, decides to enact laws that depress what rents cost. And people think, well, that's better for everybody, right? Well, not really. If you look at the long-term consequence of that, what happens is rents around those areas tend to rise, and you have this
less competition.
Yes. And so what happens to the properties that are rent controlled is, if I'm a property owner and I can't raise my rents, what am I going to do about care and maintenance of my property?
Let it go.
I'm going to let it go. And so the prices go up elsewhere because you've got a more limited supply of housing, and the housing that has been rent controlled begins to have lower and lower maintenance, so it becomes less and less desirable. So in the end, the renter loses and the property owner loses. So you start to create artificial scarcities in the quality of housing, and scarcities in the amount of affordable housing.
Wow.
Does that make
It does. I mean, I've obviously heard that argument a lot being in real estate, but the idea of abundance versus scarcity to that level of detail wasn't discussed.
Well, there are a lot smarter people who will discuss it in a lot greater detail with better numbers. And you know, you can. There are people who do dissertations and do whole careers on studying things like rent control.
So I don't know if this is a go
To
ahead.
answer your question, if you're in an environment where you see this as the norm, then you'll begin to believe there is a scarcity. And
Oh,
so that's all preamble to the answer to your question. Yeah, if I live in an environment where I can't find something that I can afford and there's a limited supply of affordable housing, well, I'm going to believe there's scarcity everywhere. There's a scarcity of money and there's a scarcity of decent housing. And so I don't see the forces outside of I don't see the forces behind the scenes. And so I start just attributing that somehow the universe creates scarcity.
I don't know if this is a good segue or not, but it's pretty relevant in our market now when we're getting competitive and we're seeing multiple offers on properties.
Yeah.
And it seems to be kind of a self, perpetuating, or it spins up its own energy. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but people will do crazy things when I think they go into that scarcity mindset.
Sure. One of the things that was really helpful to me years ago, I was buying one of the first cars I ever got. And I had a relationship with the dealer, and it was a used car and it wasn't very expensive and I had a budget. And he found this car for me and he says, it's got some problems. Those are problems that we can fix. And I said, but Bob, what if you can't fix them? What if this car isn't the right one? And he said, Roger, it's all just steel. They're going to make more. And I had this idea that if it wasn't this particular car, there would be never another one like that. And this is a guy who deals in cars. And he goes, it's all steel, Roger. They make more. We'll get more in tomorrow. The next day, just wait 15 minutes. There'll be another one. And the same is true with houses. When people are looking for a house, they stop realizing there will be another house. It may be inconveniently timed, but there will be another house that is good enough. And what people think is they want to optimize their decision, which is they want a house that has 100% of everything good, which doesn't exist.
Right.
And so what happens is when they find a house that they like that has 92% of everything that's good, they think, I'll never find one that has that's this good,
Yeah.
until they lose the deal. They get another deal that comes in later, and it's somewhere between 90 and 94% of everything they wanted.
Yeah.
And so they lose sight that it's all just steel. They're going to make more. There will come another house that will fit the bill. Will it be inconveniently timed? Yes. But another house will come into existence.
Yeah, interesting. Well, let's go a little bit deeper into the abundant mindset of a real estate agent, and I think this kind of maps in with one of my old brokers said we don't practice adversarial real estate here, and that's with other agents, with lenders, with title, with clients, with name it. Like we just don't. I always practiced that, but I never kind of condensed it down into one little train of thought. But the over time, the idea of just never being adversarial, I think it was playing into what you just talked about and the abundant mindset. I'm trying to connect the two. That just by having that mindset of wanting to work with people over time and having good relationships throughout the industry. Is that in part an abundant mindset of some other currency, not just money, but like maybe emotional currency or
Absolutely. Goodwill.
goodwill?
And how people feel about you when you're with them. So if you have to get the best, so if you're a realtor and you've got another realtor that you're working with and you just beat them to get the best price and you say nasty things and you're really adversarial and you get your clients, $10,000 more, if it's the seller, or $10,000 less if it's the buyer. Well, that other realtor and those clients are going to remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they have the opportunity to work with you again, no, I'm not going to show that house.
Right.
Because that agent is an idiot, and it's going to be nothing but drama and anger, and it's a nice house, but I'll find you a nicer house.
Yeah.
And so what happens is if that realtor who's so adversarial brings on other clients, he or she is going to have a tougher time selling those houses, because the longer people, or is going to sell them to people who don't know that realtor, he or his or her bad habits, they'll get sucked into it. But eventually you gain a pretty consistent reputation in the community.
Yeah.
And so new realtors will ask the older realtors, what do you think about this other agent? And
Avoid them like the plague.
Yeah. So it will eventually cost you. Now, what it may mean in that first instance is that you may lose part of your commission and your clients may pay a little bit more. And that hurts right now.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, and again, scarcity works great right now. Abundance works well for the long term.
Mm-hmm. So if your approach is, I'm going to be in this business for decades, better have an abundant mindset.
Better have an abundant mindset. And if you're doing it to make enough money to move, I'm going to move out of state and I need to sell a couple houses in order to fund my own move, then you can be adversarial. You can have a scarcity mindset.
Interesting. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the scarcity and how it could affect you while working with your current client. In the resident leader that I mentioned earlier, we talked about it to some extent, but I think there's a lot more there, and it's way more common in our industry than I think a lot of people would like to admit. And I think it affects people a lot more than people would give it either credit or lack of credit for, meaning it significantly impacts your ability to maintain that consultant, trusted advisor role, and to make decisions where they should be focused, and that's on the best interest of your client. I just think there's a lot there, and I didn't want to brush over it so quickly as I did last time.
Give me a specific example, and we can run through another example. I mean, we talked about a person who's adversarial. What are some other things that you're thinking about?
Yeah, let's see. I'll try to think. Well, I don't know about specifics, but generally speaking, I mean, I want my clients to know everything as best they can to make a good, educated decision. Mm-hmm. And that is whether it's in the direction of buying that house or not.
Right. So your belief is more data, more information will help them to make a higher quality decision.
Yeah, and I've seen evidence of other agents kind of leaving out like, they'll never either find that out or care, or, because that could potentially affect them wanting to buy that house.
See, I call that the gambling man fallacy.
Gambling man?
The gambling man fallacy.
Interesting.
If I tell them now, there's 100% chance that they'll be 30% mad. If I don't tell them, there's a 50% chance they'll be 0% mad because they'll never find out. But there's also a 50% chance they'll be 100% mad. And people say, I think I'm going to get lucky. There's a 50% chance they'll never find out. So they don't tell them. So they don't embrace the bad news on a gamble. They're making a bet.
Yeah.
And so that what it assumes is, if I don't get them to buy this house, here's the scarcity. If I don't get them to buy this house, there won't be another one. It'll be so much work. It'll be so much trouble. So the first part is the scarcity mindset. The second part is, I don't really want to work that hard to sell a house or to help these people buy a house. And okay, you can decide that this isn't worth the money to you. Okay, then keep at it. Keep with your strategy. But one of the things we talked about before is that when you're new to the business, you don't have a lot of experience, so you're not selling gazillion-dollar houses. But it's only through having deals go sideways and losing deals and having successful deals and iteratively getting better and better that you become a pro. But you have to learn that through the hard knocks of life. And if you want to shortcut that and go straight from amateur to pro, that ain't going to happen.
Right. There are no shortcuts in life.
The matrix, and they can put this thing in your head and you can immediately learn stuff.
Right.
That doesn't happen. So you have to learn this the hard way.
Yeah. I just, I always want agents, advise agents, because, it is a small industry and this is a marathon, that you just have to set aside whatever could potentially affect you, whether it's going to create more work, I'm going to get paid less because it took more work, or, if they don't buy this one, they're not going to buy another one. Whatever it is that would affect you has to be put aside. It doesn't matter. It's not about you as the agent. And the single best thing you could do is have that abundant mindset that just says, one, it's the right thing to do for the client, but two, there is that home for them.
Yeah. And do you really want to be party to convincing a person to buy a home with which they'll be fundamentally dissatisfied? I just had a conversation recently with someone, and his realtor said, I don't think this is right for you. And told him why. And it would have been a slam dunk, easy commission. I mean, 3 hours of work, boom, big commission on a very sizable property. And he goes, I don't think you're going to be happy with this. This is, look at your lifestyle. Look at what this house offers. And the realtor actually said, you're buying your imagination about this house, not about what you really need.
Interesting.
And so when he pulled away from the deal, he said, this is the guy who's buying, he said, I respect that realtor like crazy, because they just saved me a bunch of money, a lot of heartache.
Yeah.
And they didn't get the sale, but they got my confidence. They got my trust.
That's ultimately where I was going with that. So in our coaching, ultimately long-term in our business, we want repeat and referral business. So if you're in this as a marathon, this is my, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 year, career plan. You want that client and the relationship, the trust that you just talked about that he established. My guess is he would never use any other agent again and will vigorously refer or recommend that agent to other friends. So that is going to be worth ultimately in the long term way more than that big fat commission up front.
Right. So if you really are mercenary, or this is a hobby business for you, you're gonna get out as soon as you make X amount of dollars because you want to buy something. Then yeah, you're gonna have a scarcity mindset. It's going to work really well for you. But if you want to be a pro, then yeah, you've got to have an abundance mindset.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
And the hard part is it's going to hurt you in the short run. You're going to lose out on deals, and you're going to go, oh, maybe this was a really bad idea. And in that moment, it's going to feel like a really bad idea
Yeah.
until you keep practicing it, and eventually it will turn.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm hopeful that everybody is hearing the importance of having this mindset, and I'm especially hopeful that if for some reason you lean towards having the scarcity mindset, that it's not a light switch that just gets flipped and you can all of a sudden, you know, change the way you live. It's going to take time. I know we're getting a little long, but can you talk to the importance of
It will take
habits?
time and rehearsal.
Thank you. And that's why I was talking about habits. Can you speak a little bit
Yeah.
to, the importance of building habits around building that pathway, that new pathway?
It's about monitoring and managing your thinking. So I gave you one clue, which is whenever you say the words must be nice, that's a marker right there. I have envy. I have a scarcity mindset. Instead, replace it. So thought monitoring, thought stopping, thought replacement. So thought monitoring, when the must be nice comes down the pike, you stop it and go, oh, I'm doing that again. And then you replace it with, this person must be doing something right. What can I learn from this other person? I admire their success. So how can I learn from that person? And what really successful people very often find is that most people have their hand out. What will you give me? Very few people say, I would like to learn from you. Can you teach me? And because they're already successful, they already have an abundance mindset. They know the importance of teaching and giving to people who are less experienced. Most of them will teach and will mentor because they know it works.
Yeah, in large part, freely. I know, part of the perfect, real estate business is teaching this, and
Yeah.
we have to, charge, for this in a formal setting. But both you and I would volunteer this in a conversation if somebody.
Well, certainly in a conversation, but I'll add, here's why money is important. Because money helps separate out how much value a person is putting on the advice they're receiving. I worked in an environment once, and this was early in my career, where people came in and they got free psychotherapy. Absolutely free.
Wow.
And I was providing it, and I was salaried employee, and they got free psychotherapy. And in the same office, one day a week, I saw very similar clients who were paying me for the same service in the same location from the same guy.
Uh-huh.
Guess who got better more often?
The people that paid for it.
People who paid for it. And so what I learned is that there is value in charging, not just because I need to, pay my bills and earn money, but because, first of all, it kind of screens out the people who are really not interested in learning. And it helps people remain committed to the goals that they've made. So I think paying for advice is a worthwhile thing. I pay for advice.
Yeah, I mean, even if I've talked to somebody that I know is super good at what they do, they're tremendously successful. Thinking back, my guess is even knowing that if it's freely given to me, I don't take it as serious as when I'm paying for it.
No one ever does.
Yeah, interesting.
I mean, talking to somebody on the bus stop and tell them something, and they get it for free, they're going to go, that guy's a whack. I mean, why do I care?
Right.
But when people come to me and seek it out and pay for it, then somehow I'm a genius. I'm the same guy. It's the same work. I didn't turn into a genius. It's the combination of their commitment to learn what I have to offer. And so there are people who will train you, and there will be a fee involved, but it will make you more committed to the process if you pay.
Love it. Well, good stuff. Well, we blew right past our half an hour.
Sorry.
So no, I mean, I love these conversations. I use it as a loose guideline, but I don't want to go too far past that. We'll carry on some of these, I'm sure, in other episodes. So what I want to do is make sure everybody can get access to your information, Dr. Hall. drrogerhall.com. You've got access to the books that he's published and how to obviously contact him. And I would assume you could even make speaking arrangements as well if
Yeah,
they want.
they can reach out to me and submit a request for doing a speaking engagement or a consultation with their organization. We should be having in the very near future at least one and probably two online courses that will be on that website and available for people if they'd like to learn more from me.
Excellent, excellent. Well, and for those that do want to incorporate this more in your day-to-day activity, again, want to talk through what that perfect real estate business looks like, how to get access to the business, life coaching, mentoring, training, and all that in conjunction and synchronization with your real estate career. Just feel free to reach out to us. We'd be glad to help. My thanks again, Dr. Hall, for coming on and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you, Jared. I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, we'll wish everybody a blessed one. Take care.